Kia ora everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Finance and Policy. Thank you all for your attendance, and welcome to those who are joining us on live stream. And may I just say welcome back to Mayor Clark, as this is the first meeting since you have returned from your period of leave. So we have a Zoom attendee who will be zooming in later for one of our items. Until then, do we have any apologies? I have Councillor Bond, Councillor Dermody and Councillor Pottinger. Are there any other apologies?
Councillor Crackett gave an apology too.
Councillor Crackett, thank you. Could I have someone move the apologies? Thank you. Councillor Ludlow and Councillor Stewart, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest that any councillor wishes to record at this time? No, thank you. No public forum today, so the next item on the agenda is confirmation of the minutes of Finance and Projects Committee meeting held on 21st of May 2024. If someone who was present... Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Someone who was present would like to second.
Happy to do that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Arnold. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. No one against, no one abstaining. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Equity and Access for People with Disabilities Policy Adoption for Consultation. I have Rebecca and, Trudy. You're going to be leading this, Trudy.
Kia ora, through you, Chair Soper, kia ora, councillors and mana whenua representatives. So my colleague here, Darren, has worked very hard on this policy that we have before you today to talk to you about going out to consultation. Now, I am aware in the paper it does outline that there is no we don't have to consult, but we believe as staff, our advice is this is an important policy for our community. We'd also be part of this talking to and workshopping with our third tier staff or activity managers in terms of what does this policy mean for them and are there any gaps and how does that relate. Now I think Darren does have a bit of housekeeping for you.
Through you, Chair, I would
Darren.
like to raise an issue. It's mainly formatting, and the version that was initially there on board books didn't have sections consultation and prevention, and we identified this issue just prior to the meeting and have uploaded a complete version of the policy to board books, and hard copies are distributed. I sincerely apologize for this error.
Thank you.
So you'll see from the recommendations, one of them is that we'd also seek today for a hearing and deliberation panel to be created with 3 councillors and or mana whenua representatives for hearings and deliberations on the 17th of September. We're looking to adopt this for consultation, to go out to our community today, and we welcome any questions from the floor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or comments on the policy? I will just say from the Chair that the policy was due for a look some time ago, so it's very good to have it now, and I certainly from the Chair agree that it's very important it goes out for consultation with our community. This is a highly important policy where we've had quite a bit of pre-consultation and contact from the affected groups, so thank you for bringing it today. Councillors, are there any other queries, questions? Councillor Campbell.
So, absolutely support the proposal. If I look at page 3, where I look at equal employment opportunities, and I guess I see this in other documents, it's not unique to this, but just a question about it. Where it says regardless of, and then there's a list, and one of the things on the list is employment status. I mean, is that right? Because clearly, unless you've got a work permit, for example, that would be so what's meant to be captured by that expression?
Through you, Chair Soper, as I understand it, it's to do with whether someone is a part-time worker or a full-time worker rather than about their work visa status, but it's to make sure that we have an obligation not to discriminate based on someone may need some flexibility
Oh, I see.
in their work hours, etc. I could be wrong, but that's what I've...
No, that sounds reasonable. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Clark, I think you
Yeah,
had a question.
on the issue of community views, which is further on in the document, it talks about a list of 8 submissions from 2017, which is 7 years ago. Do we have any update on whether any of those things were adopted? Like, for argument's sake, do the people with disabilities have discount cards to our services?
We have had ongoing engagement with the Combined Disability Network, and many concerns similar to that have been raised, and my colleague Daniel and I have informed those concerns to the appropriate managers to respond.
And through you, Chair Soper, and to you, Mayor Clark, that is why part of this, it's really important, is that we consult also internally with our activity managers to make sure what are the gaps and to ensure that we can meet what the policy outlines. So that may bring some changes back through the hearings.
I guess I was just covering that first point about the discount card, because I mean there will be some scepticism when we go to consult that you talked to us 7 years ago and we gave you 8 recommendations and how many have you delivered. So I guess we'll need to cover that off when we go to talk to them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Cook.
Yeah, just a question. Given that you've mentioned that you would quite like mana whenua rep to, one of us to participate in the consultation, but unfortunately I don't know what the amended document shows because we didn't get a copy. So can I just draw to your attention that before we leave tonight it would be quite nice if we did, so that we knew what was going to be consulted on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kett, did I see you indicate you had a question or? No. No, thank you. Okay, any other questions, councillors? Okay, we have 4 recommendations. If someone would perhaps like to move the first 3 of those, and then we may discuss the 4th one, which includes the matter of a panel and the councillors who might wish to be nominated for that panel. Councillor Ludlow, did you? Thank you. And Mayor Clark, did you second? Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, recommendations 1 to 3, which are displayed for everybody to see. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone against? No one abstaining? Thank you. Now, recommendation 4, which is delegates a hearing and deliberations panel, 3 councillors and or mana whenua reps for the hearings and deliberations to be held on 17th of September 2024. It has been somewhat of a custom to ask councillors to indicate if they would wish to be on such a panel. Are there councillors keen to indicate? Councillor Ludlow, Reverend Cook, Councillor Boyle, Mayor Clark?
No, I was just suggesting that maybe as the chair of this committee you might be interested in being on that panel.
I would be interested, thank you, Mayor Clark. So we have myself, Councillor Ludlow, Reverend Cook as mana whenua rep, and Councillor Boyle. Is there anybody else who? Councillor Stewart?
Sure.
And Councillor Arnold?
No, Stuart.
Okay. Councillor Stewart, you're just indicating you'd like to be on the panel. Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. So we have 3 councillors and a mana whenua rep. Councillor Stewart, would you be happy to be an alternate? Or okay. So we have 3 councillors, Councillor Stewart as an alternate and Reverend Cook as the mana whenua rep. With those names in place for recommendation 4, would somebody like to move recommendation 4? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Campbell and Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please
Aye.
say aye. Aye. No one against or abstaining, thank you. Thank you very much, both of you. Next item on the agenda is the financial update. Patricia? No, Jamie is going to give us the financial update. Welcome, Jamie.
Okay, I'll take the report as read, but I'll just highlight a couple of things in it. So the net debt position, provisional position at the end of the financial year is 80 million. So that is 15 million better than planned. So that's a good position. Movements since the last report. So we have had $18 million advanced to the holding company on a short term. That has now been repaid in July. And we have also had a repayment on the ICL advance of 12 million. That was in May. In the clean air loan space, so just would like to acknowledge that this scheme has been operated since 2016. The first few years it was well received within the community, and then the government decided to change the rules on lending. So for the last about 3 years or so, we've actually not been able to issue any new loans and just had to wind down our current balance. Environmental Southland have had a consideration about the scheme and they have agreed to discontinue it, citing the legislation around lending, as well as there are many other competitors actually out in the market now. So for instance, you can actually go to your bank and get a 0 or 1% short-term loan, which is a lot cheaper than what we were previously offering at 3.95%. We'd also like to just pay an acknowledgement to Aroa Synergy as our service provider. They've provided us a really good service over that time. And also, from a personal note, to Kathleen Simmons, she's been administering the scheme on ICC's behalf from day first day to right to the end. And the amount of work, it's not the typical council work we would normally do, so it has been a good learning curve for us all in the finance team. Debt management, so you'll see that this data isn't available because the staff that would normally provide this have been busy setting the rates for the year. And finally, there was in the 21st of May meeting, there was a question around the number of staff that have been recruited through agencies. I've provided the details there, so up to the end of May, there were 18 staff employed, which is under 5% of the total staff. That includes 2 group managers, 11 managerial positions, and 5 skilled positions. Happy to take any questions on those.
Thank you for that, Jamie. Any questions, councillors? Mayor Clark, I think you had a question.
2 questions, Jamie. In relation to the borrowings that we have with ICL, the money we've lent out, which is part of the investment in the 69 million or nearly 70 million, is it reasonable to assume that we get more or less for that investment as an interest than we would get if we had it in the bank?
So when you're talking about the 60 million, that's not actually ICC debt, that's actually holdings. So that when I'm talking about the ICC advance, we've advanced
Yep.
30 million initially
Yep.
to ICL.
Yep.
They've repaid 12, so there's about $19 million
Yep.
left. We do make a margin on what we have on lent them.
Yep. So what's that margin? Is it more or less than what we'd have if we had it sitting in a reserve account?
It's more.
It's more, definitely more.
Okay, so that's a that's a positive thing. And the other thing is that we often have the rhetoric that our net debt is pretty healthy in comparison to a lot of councils. Is it possible in the future that we could get some data on that? So could you go out and look at places like New Plymouth, Taupo, something of similar size to us, and look at the net debt that they've got as well? Because we always say we're healthy, but
It is possible, so we can look at the long-term plans, what
Yeah.
other councils are projecting, and
Yeah.
we can do a calculation on that.
I think
As
that
a
would be
comparison.
healthy to know that.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. No other questions, comments from other councillors? Nothing you had to add, Patricia?
No, nothing I had, and I'd actually echo the sentiments of Jamie about the team in administering the clean air loans. This is not a loan book, is not something you would expect the council finance team to be administering, and it has been done to a high level. It is probably unusual to have, it's a loan book with, I don't think we've seen a default on any of those loans over the period of time that they've been going, and that's mainly because it's a hands-on service that we are providing. They get a physical call if they if a payment isn't in within a couple of days of that payment being due. So we are down to, what are we down, 8
Yep.
loans left outstanding, and that's probably 2 to 3 years unless someone pays them off sooner.
Yes, thank you for that. That was a very useful scheme when it first started, but as soon as the government legislation changed to make it virtually impossible to continue those loans, this has been an inevitable outcome. So, there being no further questions, I suggest we take recommendations 1 and 2. The Finance Committee receives the report, Financial Update June 2024, and notes the current net debt and treasury position, if someone would like to move those two.
Move, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Ludlow. All those in favour? Aye. No one against or abstaining, thank you. And the further 2 recommendations, which are recommendations to Council, that the Clean Air Loan Scheme be closed and the contributions less outstanding loans from Environment Southland and Invercargill City Council are repaid as per the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding between Environment Southland and Invercargill City Council. If I can have a mover for...
Happy to move that since I'm one of those who started it.
Thank you, Councillor Ludlow. Yes, I think I remember that. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. All those in favour? Aye. No one
Just by way
against?
of comment,
Thank
the
you.
amount of information that is required from essentially each member of council. Now, if council were to be a lending agency, it's just ridiculous. There was no way they can continue.
Yes, it virtually ended the scheme for any local authority who had begun such a scheme. Okay, tab 7, Invercargill City Holdings, final statement of intent for 2024-25. Patricia.
That one's my one. So this is just for everyone's information. In accordance with the Local Government Act, when by the 30th of June, all our CCOs have to provide us with a final copy of their statements of intent, unless we've given them an extension. This is bringing through the final statement of intent for noting. We've always, council's gone through the process of giving a letter of expectation to holdings, as well as giving feedback back on the draft statement of intent, and this is the final one that's come through from the holdings team.
Thanks, Patricia. Are there any questions from any councillors? Councillor Campbell?
Through you, Chair. I know on page 4 of the actual SOI, under the heading Electricity Invercargill Limited, the last dot point, which says that Holdco is considering its investment in Pernet Limited during this coming year. I would observe that when we wrote the statement intent and when we wrote the letter of expectation, I think it was a case that that last dot point was not being considered. That is new, and therefore I wonder whether what we have reflected in terms of dividend into the future, which is an additional $4 million coming from those sales, actually did not include the sale of Pernet. And I would suggest that we and including a resolution that we ask Holco whether the funds from the sale of Pernet might be considered as a donation to the museum. Which is not a vast amount of money, I know, but it's a few million and it would help.
So are you going to propose a recommendation 3, Councillor Campbell?
So, okay, number 3 then would be if the sale of our share in Pernet occurs, that Holco consider a special donation to the museum fund of the value of that sale.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion, Councillor Stewart? Thank you. We'll just wait for it to appear on the list. Perhaps it could start with suggests or recommends to Holdco.
Of that amount.
Should the word donation perhaps be the word dividend?
Can't instruct.
I think it would potentially be better as a dividend, rather than a donation slash dividend.
Yeah, I thought actually I thought donation might be preferable from, I don't know, a tax basis, but if you say it's better to be
There-
dividend, then, I mean, can a dividend be targeted though? I mean, I just want to make sure that if it's, that when they give it, it's being given to the museum.
Why don't we do the slash donation dividend so that we're providing for both, and then the tax implications can be further explored? Councillor Boyle?
Is it the intention that the ICL consider it, or are we asking them to do it?
At the moment, we're asking them to consider it. That's the wording of
Righto,
the
that's
resolution.
Thank you.
Yes. That the committee recommends to council.
Yes.
That council
that
recommends.
council, yeah. Just getting the wording exactly right so that we're recommending to the right body here.
So it would have to ask ICHL to consider, wouldn't it? Sorry, just being pedantic.
Well, we're recommending to council.
So the
That
committee needs
council-
to recommend to
yeah.
council
That
that
if-
council,
Yes,
Says
that if the
to
sale of
ICHL.
council's share in Fairnet occurs,
That if,
that council requests IHCL to consider a special donation / dividend.
Here it comes.
It is, but we need to
Necessary.
make sure that it is correctly recommended through to the right body.
now we
Just for the information of councillors, it is the EIL share in PowerNet that we are talking about here.
Okay.
Okay, so that the mover and seconder are happy with the final wording of proposed resolution 3?
Yep.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the resolutions, including resolution 3? I believe the chair of Holdings may be coming in on live stream, so we'll just wait a moment.
actually here for public excluded, so it was a little early, but
He was in the waiting room.
yeah, it's just been a minute.
Move the motion in the meantime. We don't need his consent.
We can discuss it in public excluded.
I think it's safe to proceed without him, but just
Okay. Perhaps Mr Wood is held up in the net somewhere.
I'm sorry here. Can you hear me?
Hello,
Can you hear me?
Brian.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's the voice.
We can hear your voice, we just can't see you on
No,
our screens,
I
but
know
that's
that
fine.
it's-
Welcome, Mr Wood. Very good to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so councillors, we have 3 resolutions before us. And if there is no further questions or discussion, if somebody would like to move, Mayor Clark.
Does Brian know that we've got the recommendation 3 in place?
yes.
He does.
Brian,
Yeah.
Well, that's all right.
you've been
That's what
able
he
to
might-
read recommendation 3, Brian?
Yeah, no, Andrew told me what it was, yes.
Good,
I had no difficulty with that.
the communication system works, thank you for that. Okay, and no comment that you or Andrew wish to make before I call for a mover and seconder for the resolutions?
Well, it depends on what I'm actually looking for. I mean, there's not a lot in power company itself. They do owe us quite a bit of money, like about 7 million. But the actual company itself just consists of some assets. We only have a relatively small percentage of it, so, 5 or 6 million maybe.
Yes, well, as we said, the resolution is formed if the sale goes ahead. That we would be asking for a special donation or dividend, so the actual amount might be for discussion at the time.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Okay, now I have some. Yes. Right. Mayor Clark, you had a question.
No,
No?
I've already done, thank you.
Okay, and just to be clear, because it took a while to formulate Resolution 3, it was moved by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Stewart. So perhaps we could take the first two of the resolutions if somebody would like to move the receipt of the report. Thank you, Mayor Clark. And noting the receipt of the statement of intent from IHCL. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Stewart. All those in favour of those two resolutions?
Aye.
No one against or abstaining, thank you. Now, Councillor Campbell has moved, Councillor Stewart has seconded Resolution 3. If the sale recommends, the committee recommends to Council, if the sale of the IHCL group, in brackets EIL share in PowerNet occurs, that Council requests IHCL consider a special donation/dividend to the Museum Fund to the value of that amount. All those in favour of that resolution? Please
Aye.
say aye. Aye. No one against or abstaining. Thank you very much. We can now move on to public excluded session if someone would like to. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Thank you, Councillor Ludlow. Moved and seconded that we move into public excluded with the inclusion of Mr Wood, who is online already. We have a mover and seconder, and you're both happy to have Mr Wood included in that move into public excluded?
Yes.
Thank you very much. No need to read out the full, no? Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one abstaining or against. Thank you. Thank you to all those on live stream for attending today. And we are now in public excluded session.